Hey, it's Luke with Out of Darts. Today we're checking out a new blaster. This blaster is here to steal your French fries. This is the Worker Seagull. Let's get going. Worker is at it again. This is the Seagull. This may look like a very familiar blaster to many of you. It is like the Harrier had a baby. This is a more compact CQB, that's close quarters battles, version of the blaster, and I have to say right off the top, I'm really impressed. Before we get going, I do want to say, obviously, I represent a shop, and this is for sale on our shop. You can pre-order these right now, and they will be available in October. So that out of the way, let's get right to it. The Worker Seagull is a pump-action Springer blaster. It is extremely compact, very consistent, and extremely well built. The Harrier back in green on the wall there has easily been one of the most popular Springers we've had on the shop. And if you look at the size comparison, there is quite a bit of reduction here, both in length and the overall feel. Another great size comparison is the Nexus, and it's just a little bit shorter with the shorter barrel and the scar included. If you take off the faux barrel thing and you're not running a scar in the Nexus, then they're pretty similar in length. However, it's just a much more sleek blaster overall, and I really, really like the sort of minimalist, sleek aesthetic that this designer has. Worker really seems to like those bird names. They started with the Phoenix, which is sort of a mythical creature, but bird-like nonetheless. And then they had the Swift, the Nightingale, the Harrier, and now the Seagull. So I think we're bird names for life here. The blaster retails for $125 on our site, and if you do order with the pre-order batch, you will get all three of the metal rails and the sights included. Those will be sold optionally later as a separate listing. It doesn't affect performance in any way, but it does lighten up the blaster if you don't have the rails. However, like I said, you get those by default with the launch batch. Included in the box are 2 different springs and 2 different barrels. The barrel lengths are 21 centimeters and 31 centimeters, and the 31 centimeter is the same barrel that is the Harrier's shortest barrel. Also included in the box are 10 Gen 3 worker darts in purple and some extra bits and O-rings. The box art itself is actually pretty cool. It's kind of like a robotic seagull. It almost reminds me of Rick and Morty, a bird person a little bit. Kind of fun, but I'm not sure about the seagulls. Additionally, the scar barrel is an injection molded scar-like barrel. It is not the one that's shown on here. That is sold separately. Ergonomically, the blaster feels really, really good with 1 or 2, let's say 2, exceptions. The grip itself is best in class in the entire hobby. It's got a nice TPU sleeve, which just feels fantastic. And I know from experience that playing with the Harrier, this still retains grip on your hand even when you've got sweaty hands in the middle of a competitive game. The mag release is very just slick feeling. It's got a nice feel to it. The paddle has lots of room. We've got a metal trigger and metal trigger guard, which are very nice touches, and it's available in 5 colors. A couple other interesting additions and changes from the Harrier. Down at the base of the grip, we of course have a nice sling point, and I think this is a really good spot to have it. It's going to balance really well where you can grab it really easily and bring it up to play. And I really didn't care for knuckle dusters, the extra guard that's in here on the Harrier. It just tends to get in the way for my feeling. I like having it open like this, and I think it kind of looks really nice too. And I have to say, I'm digging this purple. So I think this purple is going to be the one that I keep for my color. We've also got the classic Worker smiley face here, and it says Made in China, Design in Shenzhen. My 2 biggest complaints with ergonomics are both solvable. The first is, while this little grip up front looks very nice, I love the cutoff aesthetic, it just has a nice look to it. For my hands, I just keep losing my pinky and I just want a little more purchase on there. So I think I will be replacing mine with a standard grip, vertical grip from say the Harrier or the similar ones we sell on the shop. My second biggest gripe is this silly stock back here. Now this is a less expensive blaster and it is a more compact blaster, so I see the reason they did this, but this thing is just too short to possibly use functionally for me. Now I'm a average size adult male, but this just doesn't feel great. So I will be almost immediately putting on a regular stock. However, that is the good thing about having a buffer tube stock back here. It's very easy to swap it back out. That said, I do really like the look of it. I kind of like how this can hang on something. You could hang it on a wall like that, but it's just not as functional unless you're really gonna play close quarters and not put this to your shoulder while actually playing. One goofy little note we did see is that if you are using this super lightweight stock end here and you set the blaster down on this side, you actually can have your blaster go into safe mode. I don't think this will be really a problem for anybody because if you put a larger buffer tube on here, a stock, you're not going to have any issues, but it's just a matter of the tolerance of the blaster. So if you set it down, it can go into safe. However, you can't do the reverse. You can't be in safe and set it down and have it go into fire mode. It doesn't actuate it anywhere close enough to get that safety turned on or off. It's worth noting that the barrels are the same wonderful threaded barrels that we were given on the Harrier, so they've kept these compatible. The springs are also very similar. One thing I will mention is that removing the barrel, while it does unthread, because of the return spring and the shape of it in here, it can be a little tricky to get it back in as it is. So you're gonna end up wanting to grab, I'm hoping I can show this on camera, but essentially the return spring tends to bunch up because of the sizing. And so to get this barrel back in, it can be a little bit more finicky. That one went in just fine, really not that terrible, but it's definitely something to be aware of. It's not quite as in and out as easily as the Harrier. Quick note, Perry actually figured out that if you hold the slide down like that and then remove the barrel, it actually keeps the spring pretty nicely aligned so that you can then replace easier. So that's actually less difficult than I originally had thought. Now that return spring is optional. However, if you take it out, you are going to need to remember to slightly push forward and make sure that this is all the way forward so that you have sealed the ram in the breech to get a good air seal. While we're talking about air seals, it is of course very, very good, as I've now just left a dart in the barrel. But just like the Harrier, as expected from Worker at this point, we get a very, very capable air seal. I believe the Harrier held for about 30 seconds or something like that. Pretty excessive. It seems this does the exact same very, very well engineered blaster. You'll notice this magazine, as I'm about to reinsert it, is a new magazine. I keep calling it Dragon Claw, and I may have called it that on the listing, but I think that's just a translation thing. It's essentially a curved 15-round Talon magazine. It's got a nice texture on the side. The fronts and backs are smooth, presumably to allow for easy insertion, and it's got a very nice look in this blaster. These are also available in the shop. They're only available in black to start. We may get other colors in the future if people are interested. It's worth noting that the mag finish here does seem like it is prone to scratches, like I can scratch it with my finger, or maybe it's transfer happening. Nothing that's going to cause any long-term issues, but it's something worth noting. And I think it's really just due to the texture that's there, that you're marring that texture. Definitely going to be kind of a weathered look after a few uses, I expect. The blaster itself, however, is going to wear really, really well. It doesn't have that issue whatsoever. Firing and operation of this blaster is as smooth as expected. It's just a hard blaster to beat. The Harrier was an exceptional blaster, and I think the idea of making it a little bit lighter, a little bit smaller, and a little bit more compact is just chef's kiss, perfect. It is compatible as expected with all magazines that have a Talon magwell, so our Coda magazines fit in here really well. I cannot wait to get out and play with this. The blaster doesn't feature slam fire, so if you hold down that trigger and pump and fire, it will not continuously fire. However, these days I'm finding that less and less useful. I very rarely actually use it in the field because these blasters have gotten so accurate and so reliable that you're better off just picking your shots than you are spamming them across. And ultimately, when you're kind of ramming on the prime, you can't be that accurate anyway. The actual prime length is nice and short and snappy. Because of that, it is worth remembering that it's going to be a little bit of a stronger prime to get similar FPS than the Worker Harrier. The Harrier's probably got another 30 millimeters, I would approximate, or maybe about an inch. But to me, this feels quite manageable. Even with the heavier spring, it felt quite good, but it is definitely a more crisp, short prime than the longer one that you do feel on the Harrier. Performance-wise, this can still deliver the hits. On the low end, with the included barrel, for the lowest performance and the lowest spring, you're going to get around 152 FPS average based on 20-shot average. And on the high end, with the longer barrel and the upgraded spring, you're going to hit around 183. Now, you can push this further in both directions. We have a low power spring that will get us down below 140. We've also been able to get this up to 220 FPS with the OOD high power spring. That's the Out of Darts high power spring and the long barrel that's included with the blaster. We do, of course, recommend the included Gen 3 HE darts. These are easily the best darts in the market, in our opinion. We've tested them extensively, and we're going to do a full-fledged video testing a variety of different ammo types from different competitors, but these have proven to be just excellent top-notch darts. They're also now available in a lighter weight and a heavier weight. More on that soon as far as testing. I really do like the sights up top. They're just simple fiber-optic iron sights, and we'll have these available separately for other blasters, but they are just a nice touch, and they seem like they're actually high enough to use with the proper again, with a longer stock on here, because this thing is just too short for me. Be fun for CQB if you're really just playing, like going around corners. I think that's where this blaster excels. And that kind of leads me to, who is this blaster for? I'd say the Seagull is pretty much for anybody that wants a reliable blaster that hits up to 220 and you want to get down to the lower FPS. Getting the Harrier down that low, down to the 140 and under, can be a little bit more challenging because it's just got such a large plunger volume. And then additionally, this is going to be better for anybody with a smaller frame or who just wants a more compact blaster. The way I see it, this isn't really a replacement in any way to the Harrier. The Harrier is still a very valid, amazing blaster. There are just two different blasters you can have in your lineup to play with at an event. And each one's going to have its pros and cons. I think this is going to excel anything that's CQB, closer ranges, anything where you don't need the ultimate high FPS. And the Harrier is going to be better for anything that's longer engagement, where you're not coming around close quarters in general. And it makes for two really great options and a really great direction for Worker as a company, because their blasters just seem to get better and better and more refined as time goes on. And I'm excited to see what they come out with next. One thing to note with these blasters is that they, of course, all come with orange tips and brighter colors, but we really want to make sure that you're being careful with these. If you're playing with these in public parks, this definitely has a profile that could look like a real firearm, so keep that in mind, and always be careful and conscious when you're out there playing. I think for most people, the Seagull is going to be the preferred blaster. You get the lighter form factor, it's a little more compact, and if you don't need to hit 250 FPS, this is probably the blaster for you. Now, if you want to hit 250 FPS and you've got a specific game type that requires it, then the Harrier is definitely the better buy. Or if you've got a larger body, longer arms, you're going to find that more comfortable than the shorter prime that this blaster has. But since this can get down to that 150 really reliably, that's going to be the better bet for most people in most game types. That said, I'm still keeping both on my wall, and I'm going to use them both independently depending on what the game type calls for. When it comes to durability, we know this platform is tried and tested. Brett down in San Diego runs this as his daily driver. He plays several times a month. I have played multiple rounds and games with this. These are going to take drops, they're going to take bumps, and they're just built like a tank. The Seagull is easily one of the most solid feeling blasters out there. It's got real thick shells, and we've sold hundreds and hundreds of these, and we have seen very few damaged or breaking or anything like that. And at the end of the day, anything that doesn't cause our customers issues and therefore cause us more customer service is a huge plus. We want to be selling products that really represent quality and work well and ultimately give our customers the best experience possible. Thank you so much for watching this look at the Worker Seagull. Naming aside, I really, really like this blaster, and I think it's gonna be like a Seagull. We're gonna see them everywhere. Until next time, I'm out of darts. Oh, literally.